Good evening. Welcome to this week's Circle of Harmony. I'm Taru, and thank you for joining us on the evening of the Shera. Over the last 4 weeks, we had been like at least 6 weeks because we missed 2 sessions, but 4 sessions we have been exploring or just reflecting, contemplating on equanimity. And you know, equanimity, we all realize, is when we lose that equilibrium. So that got me to this thing about, the wheel of samsara. There was a video, a short one, 20 minutes or something, that I had heard once by Jetsunmala Tenzin Palmo on the hub of the wheel of life. So in Buddhism, there is this beautiful painting that is there, outside all, you can see it in the poster, outside all the Buddhist temples. They say that the Buddha himself drew this painting, and it said, it's like the Buddha felt that the common person, say a farmer, a person, a person who has a boat, like a fisherman and all, they will be able to understand how the system works through these diagrams, through this diagram. So the thing that attracted me the most was the hub, because the hub, if we talk about the wheel, the hub is what makes the wheel go round, how it works. So I thought maybe we could take up this. This would be a good time just with equanimity, as to why do we lose it in the first place. I remember in, Friday study circle once we had read an excerpt that somebody had asked mother that, I keep losing you. I want to be with you all the time and I keep losing you. How do I not lose you? The mother said that, just retrace your steps, right? Like, how do you lose me? Like, had asked that, how do I always stay with you? So mother had replied that, how do you leave me? Just go back. So it's like we realize that equanimity is when one feels that, everything is all right. The superficial movements are there, but the depth of the ocean is still. So we'll be taking up the hub today to see what causes the movement, what causes the churning, what causes the excitement, the aversions, the greed. So we'll take up a bit on that. So before we begin the video, if we could just, take 1 minute to just be fully here, focusing on our breath, the in, the out. And invoking Mother to guide us, to see us more, so that we can live light and simple. Hi, Sneh. So I'll be sharing the video, but before that, see, this is the diagram. So Jet Sunmala will be explaining us what this is. So basically, I also don't know that it very well at all, but so this is supposed to be Yama, who's carrying the wheel of life, the samsara, the whole cycle of birth, rebirth, the different realms in which we can be born. So he is holding it. And here this is the Buddha who's outside the cycle, the wheel, and he's pointing towards the moon. And they say that the moon represents liberation. So yeah, so I mean, there's a lot to here, but I think the main focus for us today, at least, would be the hub here. So I will share the video now. Before we do that, are there any questions, any comments about this? And feel free to keep your videos on if you want to. I mean, it's nice to see people's faces, but I understand sometimes it's not possible. But yeah, I'll just give a pause in case there are any questions before we begin. Okay. Yeah. So if you can't hear it, please let me know.
um, uh, a diagram of, essentially, it's a picture of samsara, of the endless wheel of birth and death. And now, traditionally, if you go to any Tibetan monastery, it is usually portrayed on the outside wall as you go in at the entrance, or in our nunnery, it's on the inside wall of the entrance. And yes. So what I want you to do, okay, so I'll start with the outside thing. It's held by this red monster here, who is Yama, the Lord of Death and Impermanence. So it means that all these realms
Tarot's a bit feeble.
are still impermanent and held in the claws of death, Lord Yama. Even the highest realms of the gods are not.
Yeah, feeble
It's
as
fine.
in the voice was. Yeah, okay. Otherwise, it's fine. Should I start from the beginning now?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, basically, all she said was that this wheel of life is held by Yama, the god of death. That's what
Oh,
she has said so far. So I
okay, then we
think,
can continue.
yeah. Thank you for letting me know.
Beyond birth and death. And up in the corner here, you see the Buddha, who is outside of the wheel, and he's pointing to the moon. Oh, does everybody have a card? You don't have cards, Sumalas? You have the image, okay. Sorry. Okay, you're visualizing it all very nicely. Anyway, the Buddha is pointing to the moon, which represents liberation, right? So he is outside of the wheel, and he's pointing, this is the way to go. Okay, now, as with any wheel, what keeps it turning is the hub, right? In any wheel, it won't turn unless there's a hub. The hub, the core of the wheel, that is what has the rod going through. That turns, and the whole wheel turns round. So I keep, in case we go on forever. So here, the hub, if you can see, the very center of the picture, there are 3 animals, right? There is a cockerel and a
Just give me one. I think it would be better. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to put Mhm. Yeah. Sound. Yeah, I'm assuming you can see the screen now. And I'll play the video so that you can hear it while you see it. If you can't hear it, please let.
right? There is a cockerel and a snake and a pig, right? Can everybody see that? Right? And they are all biting each other's tails, which means that they're all interconnected. And they're going round and round and round, scurrying round and round and round, and that turns the whole cycle. So, this really is very, very, the whole point of this wheel of life are those three little animals at the middle. The cockerel stands for desire, greed, grasping. The snake stands for anger, aversion, hatred. And the poor pig stands for ignorance. Very unfair to pigs, but there we go. So the
Yeah, just taking a pause here. So we are talking about three animals in the hub. There's this pig. There is the bird, the cock, cockerel, whatever we call them, and there is this snake. So just to because it goes a bit fast, they say the pig. Because the pig basically, it's nothing against the pig per se, but you know how the pig just eats anything, stays anywhere, they say in poop and stuff, in mud and all. So pig signifies ignorance. It's considered a foolish animal. And then the second one is the snake. How when we are angry, when there is some hatred, some emotion, how quickly it rises up. So that is kind of symbolized by the snake. The snake is there and suddenly it goes up and it, kind of points its whatever, I mean, it's ready to strike. So the snake represents like aversion, anger, hatred. And the bird, that particular bird, I don't know what the name is. They say it's a cock because but in the Western countries, it said the bird doesn't exist. So it's an Indian bird which is extremely attached to its partner, like crazy attached. So the bird represents attachment. So these three things, the pig, the cock, the snake, representing kind of greed, aversion, I want it, I don't want it, and ignorance. They are called the root poisons. And that's what keeps the wheel churning. If there's anything, please unmute at any time because it's nice if we can all get it together. So I'll continue.
underlying point of departure is that pig. Ignorance in Buddhism does not mean not knowing the capital of Guatemala or being up on the latest in quantum physics. It means not knowing how things really are, being caught in our conceptual thinking, dualistic mind of subject and object, and not recognizing the way things really exist, because our minds naturally reify everything. That means that we make everything into separate individual things. And then we either like those things or do not like those things. So the pig is the beginning. Any impetus which comes through our sense doors, our eyes, what we see, what we hear, what we taste, what we touch, what we think about, automatically get my whoops. Automatically we have the reaction of liking it or disliking it or being indifferent to it. This is very important. Normally this moment of reaction is so fast that we don't even notice it. And this is one of the practices for learning how to be mindful, is to become more and more conscious of how all the input which comes through the senses either is pleasant or unpleasant or neutral.
I'm sorry, I would be bit because it's very easy to just keep listening to it but not get it because the points are so subtle. So are we okay? Are we understanding what she's saying? If somebody could just give me some feedback whether we are going fast or all is okay.
It's all right.
Okay. So just one or two things, how she said that in Buddhism or in general, the ignorance is not that you don't know, say the general knowledge questions. It's not knowing your own self. So that's what is considered ignorance. And I remember that even in Upanishads, there was a part where they were describing Vidya, education, right? Vidya. So the disciple asked his guru in the Upanishad that what is Vidya and what is avidya? So he had answered that avidya is that which does not tell me about myself. And Vidya, with the same definition, is that which tells me the truth about myself. So, and that is it, right? Like I say, I want to know this, know that. I mean, there's no end to knowing, especially in today's time and age with internet and everything. And yet, what is worth knowing is the truth about myself according to the Upanishads. So that's Vidya. And everything else that we are so keen to know, how does that work, why does that happen and stuff is technically avidya. It doesn't give you anything. I thought it was very interesting. And what I liked was that how it is said that we are not living, right? We just keep on repeating things. So she said there is some stimulus, we either like it, we don't like it, or we are indifferent to it. And you know how the mechanical mind, when it feels that, okay, something was presented to me, say there was this cup and I like it, I say, oh, I like the color. So the next time, if I pick up a cup or if I see a similar color, I just like it. The mechanism of the whole thing is such that it would not even ask me after one or two times that do you like it? It will just, that's the flow that would happen in me that, oh, I like it. Anything I see related to this, I like. Anything that I don't like, that's how it is. And if I see something similar, mechanically, my body will decide I don't like. So we are not even present to these things. And that is why a lot of times, when we suddenly get angry or upset, sometimes we don't even realize what has happened. Or we wonder, why did I again do that? Because it did not even wait for my permission. It did not even ask me how to respond. It just responds till you are vigilant enough that no, I don't want to react like that. So that was just something I wanted to make sure we don't do. If there's anything, please unmute. Moving on.
And in that self, that doesn't matter. That's fine. But then, if we are not aware of that initial impulse to liking it, disliking it, or ignoring it, which are these three animals, right? Then, if it's pleasant, we reach out and want to grasp it and hold on. If it displeases us, we feel irritated, annoyed. Oh, it's a sound, I don't like that, you know, and feeling annoyed and irritated and angry. Or else we're indifferent. And if we stay too indifferent to everything, in that kind of indifference, it's kind of apathy. It's not an equanimity. It's just a kind of dullness. So right from the start, right every moment to moment to moment, we actually are experiencing pleasure, pain, or indifference, even as you're sitting there. You sit there and, oh yeah, this is a nice seat. It's very comfortable. But then after a while, it's not comfortable anymore. You know, so you start moving, right? Why? We do it automatically, but if you're looking, the body is saying, this is discomfort, I don't like it, I want to change it, right? And so moment to moment to moment in our life, we are doing this, and mostly unconsciously. And so it dominates us. Some people are more inclined towards, you know, liking things and being pleasant. Some people are more towards finding things annoying and irritating and frustrating. But all of it are these root poisons of the mind, which if we see it at the moment of arising as pleasure, displeasure, or neutral, it doesn't harm us. There's no problem. We don't have to follow it. But if we ignore that initial impulse, then we find our mind and then later our speech and our actions going along following these impure impulses. Do you understand? I mean, this is very important because this is the very reason why the wheel is going round. And it's the reason why mindfulness is so important. What are we mindful of? Essentially, we are mindful of our mind. And not just when we're sitting nicely, but during all the time when all this input is coming towards us, to watch, to be clear what comes up in the mind when it comes up. And then we don't necessarily have to follow it out. If we are aware, then we can just notice. And if we notice, then we are in control. If we don't notice, and we just follow along with our impulses of pleasure, pain, or indifference, then we are out of control.
Yeah, again, I would just like to take a pause here. This was the main thing. Would anybody care to just recap what she said for us? Hi, Sham. Hi, Jasmine.
Yeah, hi Taru.
Hi. Sham, would you like to recap a little bit of what you could understand?
Yes, probably. She
Yeah.
told that when we are mindful of the string of waves that occurs in our mind, that why do we get angry? Why is there an element of discomfiture in us? Then we tend to become more alert to our feelings, our bodily sensations. And then we all find that it is only a manifestation of our mind. It ain't that torturous how we are thinking in that. This is one thing that I could gauge.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was the main thing. So basically, again, coming back to our topic of equanimity, which we were discovering, not discovering, but exploring. Hi, Ritu, welcome. So why do I lose it, right? Why am I not equanimous is the question. So here, Jetsunmala, through the wheel of light, the hub, she's telling us that I don't know where I'm spending my time, right? I don't know where I am. I say I am this body, but I'm not very much with the body, right? The mind is somewhere else. It's not connected to the body. It's either, obviously, we all know this, in the past or in the future. Meanwhile, in the present, havoc is happening, right? I think about somebody, there's a judgment. I think about, say, the future, there is some anxiety. I think about the past, there is some guilt. So I keep on creating the karmic cycles because I'm not silent. I'm not at peace. There's always something, 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 something. So she's saying that in this something, 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 I don't realize that I am creating more stuff for me without even wanting to create. So she said that with mindfulness, like if I am mindful, as in see what I am thinking, what thoughts am I allowing? Thoughts would come, but what thoughts am I believing? How they come and they just carry me. We all especially see that, right? When we have to sit, say, for 2 minutes and focus on our breath, even for 2 minutes, even for 30 seconds, we cannot be, right? Something or the other just comes and it takes us away. So knowing, okay, it's taking me away, or it has taken me away and coming back. So she's saying once when we'll be more conscious of how I get carried away, when I notice, I will have a choice that, okay, I'm going again, come back. And in that coming back, I will not create more things, or I will be able to, be more, I will be able to act or react or respond based on what I want to do and not what, how it's just naturally happening in me because of the past patterns. I remember, in one of the videos that we had shared, Thich Nhat Hanh, he had said that whenever there is any trigger, instead of responding, just take a few breaths, just focus on your breath for maybe, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 breaths, and then respond. And he said, you will see that the nature of your response has drastically changed. Why is that? Because, like we were sharing, that my response is so mechanical that I am not even present when I am reacting. That is why most of us, especially, I would say this about anger, because it's so fast. The aversion, the judgment, they come up so fast that later on I mostly realize that, oh my God, oh, I did that again. Oh, that's what I was thinking. Because how can that be? That can only be when I'm not there when it's happening. So here they are saying that the hub of the wheel, it keeps moving because I don't realize. I just go from desire to aversion to, because of ignorance. Ignorance, she said, is the main thing because of which even the desire or the aversion act. So when we are aware that, okay, this is how this is working, this is fueling, this is the petrol in my car because of which the car is running. And if I want the car to stop, I might be able to see that I don't have to put any gas in it, any petrol in it. Yeah, so, and that is what mindfulness is, to be aware of the mind, where I'm going, what is coming, which thought, which feeling, choosing what to take, what not to take, and trying to not go on the old paths, to, making new paths so that new ways, new walkways can be constructed. Yeah, any questions, any comments? So for those of
Yeah,
us who
I
joined
have
us
a
late, hi
question.
Srini. Yes.
So we see that this mind is chattering always, and it's happening for all people for almost all the times. So I understand that it's
Your voice is
natural.
breaking a lot. Can you just adjust your mic?
Yeah, yeah. Is it better? 1 minute. I'm just trying to adjust it.
Yeah, just going up and down.
Okay, is it better now?
Yeah, this it's perfect now. Thank you. If you could just repeat what you were.
Yes. So we see that this mind is chattering. We understand that we need to subdue that disturbances or the other vibrations. But my question is,
What did you
we,
say? I know that the mind is chattering and I am
and we need to calm it down,
okay.
right? But we see that throughout, let's say, everyone is having this issue, right? Like the mind is chattering, and it has been happening for ages together. So my question is, why is it designed this way? If that is not the normal.
Yeah. I think there would be a lot of reasons for that. Say there's a small child, right? You have children yourself. A child can be very calm and very happy in itself, right? Or it could be throwing a tantrum, or it could be creating a lot of mischief. Somehow, I think one reason would be the collective that how you said everybody, there is this chattering. So basically, there is a possibility of it not chattering, and yet because it's chattering in everybody, everybody's mind start chattering. And I think secondly, because somewhere that calmness or that peace, we don't know what to do with it. The fidgeting, the restlessness, the thinking and all, it it kind of distracts us from the main purpose of life. So if I was totally calm and concentrated, I would not be able to do the things that I do. You know how in the theory of birth, like especially when we read Savitri, how it's explained that how everything turned, right? Consciousness became unconsciousness, truth became falsehood. So I think peace kind of became chaos. And now the journey is going backwards. Not backwards, but going back to the center of the origin. So basically, it is said that, Earth is the only realm in which transformation or evolution of souls is possible. So we are given challenges that we have to transcend. So I know that I have felt that peace in me. And yet I know that 99% of my time is spent in chaos. But if for me now peace is important, I will slowly start moving from chaos to peace, and that is my journey here. I don't know if that makes sense. But because the collective is so strong, it feels that everybody is doing it, so this must be the norm. And yet it's not. It's not the norm. One can change. When one looks at a Buddha, when one looks at a Nanak, a Kabir, one knows it's not the norm. I can question, I can stop, pause, and change. It is a conscious choice. Sorry, you had unmuted. Please.
Okay, yeah, thank you. No, it is sensible. Like whatever you told, it makes sense.
Yeah. And this is a question that one would find the answer to within also. Let's say if I am silent for 5 minutes, like if I'm just focusing on my breath, for example, or if I'm listening to a beautiful music or a chant, or if I listen to a beautiful story where there is some stillness, there is some concentration on my part, how do I feel? Do I feel expanded? Do I feel constricted? One could see that. And when you are with somebody, or you're just thinking of somebody and just negative thoughts are coming to you, or rather positive, that movement, how do you feel? So that would help you to decide for yourself whether that is natural or this is natural.
Okay, so when we think from this perspective, it looks like whatever, let's say, hundreds of crores of people who are living, they are living a wasteful life. So, right? I mean,
Yeah, Srini, basically, Sri Aurobindo and so many other masters and mystics, they have said that nothing goes waste. They have said that by your stumbling, the world is perfected. So it's not really waste as such, but yes, we can do better. Yes, we can live better. And yet, because we all have to reach that point in which we feel that no more. And like events like this, say like after the corona, like with what all happened, people have, a lot of us have turned more towards what is the purpose here? After losing our loved ones, or the basic uncertainty, the shock of how easy it is to die. So, these are the things that trigger us and make us think. So, yes, it is not the ideal of how we can live, and yet it is a fact that it is like that. And whoever wakes up or is waking up, they start moving towards the light and simplicity.
okay, thank you. I was previously like, I was having a disposition that it's just because it's Kali Yuga, we can't help it. But yeah, I mean, whatever you say, it gives some hope that it's a conscious decision from our side.
Yeah. So, and the yoga basically is means that there would be more darkness, maybe, right? But the light can never go, right? Like lot of times there's sun is fully there, but there are dark clouds that cover it, and we say it's a rainy day, it's a dark day, it's a gloomy day. So the sun is there. So it's always there. Everything is in my, conscious choice. I can choose to be where I want to be. So the influences are there. It just means I have to fight harder. I have to try harder. And then my results are also more, right? Like if there's a less challenge. So if my opponent is weak, I don't need to develop my strength to fight it. But if my opponent is really strong, I really have to, pull up my game and fight. So that's how it is. We just have to be stronger, because every time we have to fight, we end up being stronger too, right? Like all these challenges, these pains, these fights, the purpose is to make us stronger and go where we want to go. But that doesn't mean that lose hope and you can't do anything at all. Rather, it's the opposite, that, pull up your socks and get ready.
Yeah, thank you so much for explaining.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. Yeah, anybody else? Any comments, any questions, anything that we heard so far from Jetson Mala? Okay, I'll resume now.
Do you understand? This is very important because it's the very thing which keeps the wheel going round. And it's right at the very start, before anything else, before the conceptual mind gets busy. There's that moment of clarity. And then the conceptual mind catches onto it. And if it's something nice, then it wants more. If it's something it doesn't like, then it wants to get rid of it and feels, aversion or annoyance. Or else it just is dull and doesn't care one way or the other. So that moment, as it comes, and it's every moment, it's not some special moment. It's moment by moment by moment by moment. Either we are aware or we're not aware. And if we're not aware, then we're just swept along by our conceptual mind, which is often dominated by these three poisons. Much more than we normally are conscious of, until we start really looking. and seeing how much of our speech and actions are motivated by these elementary negative emotions, even if we're fairly nice people. I mean, it doesn't mean we have to be in rages every moment or jumping on people filled with lust. It can be very subtle. But nonetheless, it guides and motivates so much of what we do, unless the only thing which can overcome it is not suppression, but awareness. Being conscious. What's actually going on here? Moment to moment. You understand? I mean, so right at the beginning is the clue to how to go beyond this whole cycle. By uprooting. You say, once you take away the hub, then the wheel can't go, right? So it's no good taking away bits or segments. You have to take the core out, the root. So everything which comes after that is based on what is there at the very center. And that is with us moment to moment to moment to moment. And that's what we've got to wake up and be conscious of. How it all works, how it all fits together. And if we can do it right when it's just there, then it is relatively simple. By the time it's elaborated itself, it's much more difficult. So the point is to pinpoint it right at the start. That's what meditation is about. It's not about getting into states of bliss and, ecstasies, or certainly it's not about blanking out. It's not about becoming thoughtless. It's about developing the clarity of the mind so that we can see how much we are imprisoned in our conceptual mind and how we are not our conceptual mind. Most people identify.
Yeah, I'll take a pause here. Any reflections, comments on what we just heard? Okay. Sometimes there's so much participation, and the other times it feels I'm all alone. Yes, Shan, thank you for unmuting.
Yeah, thanks, Taru, for poking me.
Yeah.
Many a time when I'm not poked, I keep a stony silent. Yeah, well, what Jetsunma was saying, I very much relate to it because, for example, many a times that kiosk can be a platter, okay? It can be a platter, a bridge to reach to the higher one. For example, when I feel that there is so much of chirping and chuckling in my mind, I often find that where do I take refuge so that I find some element of peace, some tranquility, some serenity. And then probably then I remember that yes, Taru and Monica in the various, in the various deliberations, they had told that you need to focus on your breath, you need to do the tonguing meditation and all that. And then I am able to be at peace with myself. So it really helps in that sense. So many times that the so-called chaos, the so-called chaotic mind, the so-called chaotic outer, it can be a window to look into our own inner self. So there I find it very much relatable that yes, everything happens for a reason, that chaos too can be a bridge to look into your own inner self. And I very much relate to that Corona example also because it taught humanitarianism to many people. Many people turn to philanthropy. They, they donated their wealth, they donated their salaries. Okay. So chaos can also be at times, they can awaken the best in us, although it may take time.
Yes, Sham, thank you so much. Absolutely. The purpose of it is to get fed up, right? Like get
Yeah.
disgusted or just say that no, I can't be here anymore.
Yeah, only when we are disgusted do we find for the higher thing. Okay. When we are disgusted with our current job, we look for a better job. When we are disgusted with our current school, we look for a better school. Okay. Like at my own personal level, if I am allowed to say that, so I was very disgusted with my with my school at one point of time, and I wanted to go to a new school. So my parents told me that you write this entrance exam for this. There's a school called RIMC, whether you know of it or not, I don't know. Rashtriya Indian Military College in Dehradun. Okay. So I went to that school, and after 10 days, I dropped out of that school because it was so strict. We had to wake up at 4:30, polish our shoes, iron our clothes, and do all those things. And I was not very much accustomed to it, and so I dropped out of that school. So only when we change our schools, we change our colleges, we change our outer environments, do we feel that the problem lies within, not outside. And then do we look for greater meaning in life? So I would stop at that. I think I have talked far too much.
Yeah, I think you have summed up the whole session for us. Move further discussions needed that we
Yes.
first, there's chaos outside. We keep
And
correcting, we keep changing, we keep desiring, and then in the end we realize that array, we have to work on ourselves and we are so much more than our circumstances. Those are just triggers. Yes, please.
और कई बारी मार खाने के बाद हमें पता चलता है कि गड़बड़ तो अंदर ही है, बाहर सब ओके ओके टाइप से है। बदन ये कई बारी मार खाने के बाद ही पता चलता है।
Actually, kai bari nahi, honestly, har bari, because how it's said that we are like a dog's tail. It's very hard. It's almost impossible to straighten us. So these punches, these
Kicks
wake
and
up
not.
calls, yeah, are needed because otherwise, how they say that it's when I am having a nightmare, is then I wake up and I say, oh my God, right? Like I can't sleep anymore. And as long as I'm having like no dreams or good dreams, I keep sleeping. So the same analogy is reflected in our
Not
life.
only sleeping, sometimes we do keep snoring too.
Yeah, very true. Thank you, Shah.
Yeah, one thing I understood is if we like sit calm, if we do meditation, we can bring down the thoughts or we can align with our own self. But especially at workplace or when we are in outside in the world, so it's very difficult to bring that mind or that perspective. So I understand that like slowly when we practice, we could get that. But do you have any thoughts about that? Like how to be, how to behave ourselves when we are in an outside environment, surrounded by people, or at workplace, or at family, or uh, anywhere.
Yeah, Shrini, I don't know. I don't have any such thing, but I just know that, there is this sentence that I had heard once which stayed with me. And the sentence was that बेहोशी की तैयारी होश में करनी पड़ती है. So as in, when you are unconscious, you won't be able to do anything. You have to prepare for your unconsciousness when you are conscious. So when, it's like again, Kabir ji's doha, right? That dukh mein sumiran sab kare, sukh mein kare na koi. Jo sukh mein sumiran kare, to dukh kahe ko hoye. So as in when everything is fine, and then I'm remembering him or practicing holding on to my calmness, seeing where the mind is going, seeing my trigger points. So when I'm put in challenging situations, because I am the same, I will be able to catch myself. And I will have to practice when I am okay, build my base. and then go. So if say you have to go for a fight with a fighter, you will not say that, you will learn or you will gain power or you will gain strength when you are fighting. No, you will hire a coach, right? You will prepare, you will do weight training, you will see how do you prepare yourself, like building up muscles. So once when you start practicing moment to moment, whenever you're getting movements that you can give attention to, it will spill in all the areas.
Okay. So when I'm alone, suppose like I can restrain myself from doing things which I don't like, right? But at workplace, when I'm influenced by others, I find it really hard to say no when things are not
Give
as
me
per
an
my
example,
align.
Jesse, maybe it would help us all. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to be too generic because we should not uh, look from that example perspective. For instance, I'm asked to send out, do something or tell something lies at my workplace. Okay, I need to give a false report, let us say, by my manager, because otherwise it would be troublesome for me, for us. So in that case, if I think that I will stay honest, but I'm asked to give a false report. So in that case, what I'm telling is, uh, uh, I feel myself like too weak to say no.
Yeah, Srini, basically, we all have our greeds, right? And that is why we stick to relationships, people, situations, jobs, titles, because we feel that what if this is taken away from me? What will I do? So if you are in a situation where you're expected to lie and you're not comfortable with it, so the question here now is not how do I handle it? The question is, why am I here, right? Where I have to lie and I don't like to lie. If it didn't make a difference to me, like it doesn't to a lot of people, then it's fine. But I think it's more important to see that why am I here? And if I have to be here and the lying is affecting me, what if I say no? What is the maximum that could happen? I would lose my job, maybe. And what is more important to me, having a job in which I lie and don't feel good about it, or continuing the way it is? So I think in this, it's a very simple thing that why am I here?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I just that's why I did not want to give this example, because this looks like plain black and white, right?
Yeah.
But usually the circumstances would be it would be having a lot of gray areas. Like we truly do not know whether it's uh, uh, good or bad, and when we get into a situation where we feel that I need to say no, but we are not finding ourselves uh, having that courage to do so.
Yeah. So I think then to start with, next time when you're in this situation, courage doesn't come when I feel that I have something which will be taken away from me. Start looking for your greed, your grasping, that I am not able to say no because, and then you will slowly start seeing the mechanics of how things are working. Right now, it feels very good. I don't have the courage. Oh, I'm a weak person. For example, not saying you are. So we hide under those terminologies. But the truth is that because I'm getting something, I'm not giving up what I don't like to do. But because if when that becomes more important, first I should know, right, that why am I sticking to it? What's the issue? Why am I not be able to do that? When I'm actually able to see the reason. Say, for example, a person feels very tortured by, say, her in-laws, right? But she knows that the in-laws will, finally hand over the property to her husband and then she will be a co-owner of that property. So she keeps on getting the abuses, just giving an example, or living that tough life because 20, 30, 40 years later, she knows that she'll get that farmhouse that is, of 10 crore value, and that is very important to her, that, oh wow, how can I let that go? But she's not realizing that she'll be giving 20, 30 years of her life so that she can have a 20 crore farmhouse, which she would not have much to do with anyways. To start looking for your greeds, the subtle movements of why am I scared? Why am I anxious? What stops me? Because it's not just plain courage, there are fears attached, fear of losing something that you think is giving you something. So you have to decide for yourself whether it's worth it, whether the bargain, everything that we do is transactional, right? So the trade that I am doing, I'm giving away my freedom, my honesty, my sincerity, for example. What am I getting in return, and is it worth it? And truly thinking about it, not looking at it from the societal point of view. The society would say, yes, yes, it's worth it. But I have one life for sure, I know. Right now, that's I know for sure. Is this how I want to spend it? If the answer is yes, then absolutely continue. If the answer is no, the way you will see yourself, nobody has to tell you that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I'd say along with that, reasons, right? I mean, reason of fear of losing something. I would say I would like to add on to another factor which I perceive. Uh, it would be like we were being told to be good and nice from the childhood, and maybe that could be one reason we behave the way we do things. Like, for example, uh, saying not saying a no when we are not aligned with that, because that would displease others. So it became from my perspective, it might have become the nature, so that that is causing this issue. That would also be a
Yeah.
additional factor. So I'm finding it too hard to come out of that nature.
Yeah, that's a very good point. But again, everything is age appropriate and wisdom appropriate, right? I think we share this examples quite often that if as a child, when a child is 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, we tell them don't go with strangers, don't talk to strangers, don't take anything that's given to you, right? Don't accept things because the child is small and he needs to be protected. So when the child doesn't know, the mother says that, oh, be good to everybody. Don't say no, help people, be there, be the good boy. But now when, somebody is asking you to lie, for example, and you remember your mother saying that, oh, no, no, don't say no. You could also instead remember Krishna telling to Arjuna that, no, do your dharma, right? What are you scared of? No, kill your relative because they are doing a dharma. So it's who do now that you are not a child anymore. You get to choose what you want to believe, what you want to do. Yeah, Ritu, you want to share something? Yeah. So I think just that, if a child is, say, I don't know, now 40 years old and he's still saying that, no, no, my mother said not to talk to strangers, he won't be able to survive in the world. So forgetting the things that we were told, not forgetting, but discerning now, looking at them and seeing that, is this working for me? Can I drop it now? And later on, if I get caught saying something, what will I say that, oh no, my parents told me or the society tells me to just comply? Not at all. Nobody would blame the manager, for example, in this situation. Everybody would blame you that you are an intelligent adult. How could you do that? These are just excuses we tell ourselves because we just like to, go in a similar flow. But I have a choice to stop and not go that route.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Srini.
Hi.
Yeah. When Cyrus there. Yeah, yes, Cyrus, please.
Yeah. Thanks for all the examples, and that last part also is very well explained. Prior to that, you mentioned about when things are fine, you kind of it's good to build a base that time. So if you can just give me a simple example, how do you do that? I mean, just I was a little confused with that statement. So if you can share
Yeah.
a simple example.
Again, say the example of just anger is coming to me. Say, for example, there is this particular person, when they react in a certain way, I respond in a certain way, right? We have been doing it for, say, 20 years. That's how we are. We don't change. So if today I want to change, I cannot keep waiting for the triggers to change. Say if I'm, kind of say I'm sitting with myself and I'm just looking at my breath or my thought, and I imagine the person say that to me, for example, and I don't respond. Like I just imagine I've been told that, say, you're good for nothing. And I'm like, okay, I'm good for nothing in your eyes, and I'm fine with that. So basically, because I know that when it's thrown at me, I cry out and I throw it back. But if I prepare myself that these things are thrown at me, I might learn how to dodge, right? I might learn how to not let it hit me. Similarly, when you have to, say, play some games, or, like again, the fighting example or any sports, you cannot just practice when it's game time, right? You have to build up your muscles, your talents, your techniques while you are practicing, while you are developing yourself to go for that fight or that sport. So just that if there are things that I react to, there are situations which I react to, if I give them some time, that just sit with them, I always react that way. Or I always feel bad when somebody says this to me. Why do I feel bad? Okay, this is the reason. Is this true? Okay, if it's true, can I do something about it? Okay, let me do it. Because once I've been thrown that stone and it hit me, then I would not have time that, okay, let me see how can I do something about it. Then I will keep responding like I have responded in the last 20 years. So when I am like that sentence that I use, कि बेहोशी की तैयारी होश में करनी पड़ती है. If I am unconscious, say for example, somebody has epilepsy, right? When he is having a fit, he cannot be given medication. He'll have to have his medication not to have a fit, for example, right? So when I am conscious of what thing is happening, how are things happening, or how am I reacting, when I am in my sanity, I can choose, I can see, I can make sense. But when I've lost it or I'm losing it, I cannot, it's much, much, much harder for me to do anything about it because I'm already under the influence of these forces. And that's why, Jetsunmala, when she said movement to movement to movement has to be important. What we do is we have a big picture view of life. That yes, I'm a very good person. I'm very simple. I like simple things. I don't wish any bad for anybody. यार मेरे को क्या फर्क पड़ता है? Let be live and let live. And but when I look at my life moment to moment, okay, this person said that. Oh God, what kind of a person would say that? Oh my God, what is she wearing? He laughed. Is he laughing at me? I'm everywhere other than, let live and let live. So that's why the moment to moment to moment is very important because the moment is what I am actually living. Big picture is just what I am thinking. That doesn't help me change my ways. Rather, it kind of is very deceptive, right? It makes me feel I'm doing great when I'm not. I don't know if that helps, Cyrus.
Yeah, I think that really helped. I mean, it made a lot of sense. But what I was saying is, so I think you can apply this in any situation, right? I mean, we mentioned this anger and sports. I think, we go through so many instances where, we go through, a repeat and we say, oh God, this happened again. And like you said, I think that's the time you kind of step back and practice or say, now next time this happens, and we don't usually do that. We say, oh God, same thing, and then we move on quickly. Of course, we learn a little bit sometimes, but I guess what you're saying is to be a little more conscious, and say it and question yourself a little more. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So see, when I see a pattern in me, I give myself some time, right? I have time for everything. I have time for tea, for coffee, for TV, for work. I give myself, say, I don't know, maybe to start with just 5 minutes in a day to recognize that, okay, this is a pattern I'm seeing now in myself. Let me see how that works. Go back, go back, go back. I always get angry when I'm with that person. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm just using the example of anger. Stepping back. Why? 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 Where is this? Going to the root of the thing. And as soon as you see the root, you see there is actually nothing really. Yeah, I remember, I don't know if you have seen the episode of Friends. I think most of us would have. So in that one of the episodes, Phoebe, she is very angry with Ross. And Ross is unable to figure out that why is she angry, why is she angry. So, he questions her that, Phoebe, why are you talking to me like this? And she was like, I'm very mad at you, very mad at you. How could you do this? And he was like, what have I done? So Phoebe sits down. She, if you have seen the episode, how dramatic she is, she tries to trace back to what, and she was like, you came to my dreams and you said that. And Ross was like, Phoebe, that was a dream. And then she was like, oh my God, that was a dream. So lot of times we don't even know why we are responding or reacting or not reacting to something. What are my reasons? Because the reasons mostly don't even have any beef in them, any life in them, and they're just making us, go round and round and round and round.
Yeah, right. And I think she, even in the video, she mentioned about, being conscious, about these three elements, all the time. So I guess it comes back to the same thing in a way.
Yes. And because being me, I cannot straight away going from totally unconscious to fully conscious. I have to start doing it whenever I remember it, right? If I am just feeling some anxiety, some tension inside of me, just stopping, giving myself a minute. Okay, what just happened? No, I don't need to hold on to that. Let me breathe through it. For example, and people have, they again in Plum's Village app, they have that gong going every, I don't know, you can set up on your phone every 15 minutes, every 1 hour. So whenever there's a gong, or say whenever there's a phone ring, just gathering yourself that, okay, where am I? What am I doing? What is the body doing? Becoming more aware, being more with the body so that you're more in the present. So these small, small things, maybe if you can do it even 3 times a day to begin with. As soon as you remember, just taking a, check what is happening, what thought is coming. That helps. That really helps. And Cyrus, it's so addictive that once you start doing it, it becomes a spiral. You want to do it more and more and more. It's so interesting. You don't want to then watch Netflix, YouTube, because so much of that is happening inside you is more entertaining than the other thing.
Right. But we spoke more mainly about these negative things like anger. I mean, there would be even instances in the day when you're in a positive element or you're happy. So I guess it applies to that as well, right? I mean, you think back
Yes,
and
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
look back and see what you did right. I mean, that gave that joy, or because sometimes we just always focus on the negative aspects, whereas
Yeah.
there are so many other ways to look at it. So anyway, thanks.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's really important because, it's a giant wheel, right? Like the same thing that gives me happiness gives me pain. The same thing today that's giving me pain could be giving me happiness later on. So We think that happiness, I want, I don't do anything about it. Pain, I don't want, I keep going there. And yet, as an example, because it's easier to talk about pain, everybody understands it more. One uses that as an example. But everything that takes me from here to there, from here, I must look and see what is happening. Then this thing kind of reduces, reduces. So absolutely. Thank you for saying that.
Thanks.
I had a question when we talk about living from moment to moment and to live life as it unfolds, right? There's a saying that we need to cross a bridge once we reach it instead of thinking about it beforehand. But what I get inputs from other people, right? That we need to have a short-term and long-term goals in order to really progress and have some tangible observations of that progress that will keep us moving and really like it's like playing a game where there are multiple challenges, right? So we need short-term and long-term goals. So how does that fit in when we talk about living from moment to moment, where we really live uh, life as it unfolds instead of like not having a big aim or bigger goals?
Yeah. So Srini, I think it depends on, the quality of my goals then. For some people, goals work, they are motivating. For others, it doesn't work. But even if I'm choosing my goals, what are the goals I am choosing, right? Or in addition to, say, the professional goals, do I also have spiritual goals, rising in consciousness goals, going within it goals? Okay, so like I was speaking to Cyrus and I said 3 moments, 3 breaths if you can give during the day, just recollecting yourself that where am I, what is this body doing, what am I thinking? That could also be a goal. But people, they would say everything. There are so many people, and most of us saying the same things, ambition, goals, and all, which is great if you want to buy that. But you get to decide who do you want to listen to, right? And if something seems to be working for somebody else, doesn't mean it will work for you too, right? So decide for yourself. If making goals work for you, make goals. But knowing that these goals might not come true, and that's all right, right? So you know how it's said that wanting something is not a problem, but then being feverish about it, oh my God, I have to, or I can't get it. That is what kind of creates misery. That is what creates suffering. We are here, we would need to have places we would want to aim towards. But then living like, how it says a must life. Happens. I'm doing everything I can, I want to towards it. Doesn't happen, it's fine. I have to end up in a body box anyways. So just having that big picture that it's not a matter of life and death. It's not. Although I may be told it is, but can't I see it for myself? So many times I have been in the same situation. Can I be different? Can I do different? So choose your goals, choose your battles, so that, even if you fail at doing something that meant something, that is not transitory, that you can take with you. I'm sorry, it sounds like a lot of
Okay.
wordplay, yet it's not. Yet it is not.
Okay, if we want to have some spiritual goals, let's say rising in consciousness or going inside, then how do we have a measurable goal? So
I think, Srini, again, it would depend on person to person. Somebody could choose a route of, say, chanting. Somebody could choose a route of meditation. Somebody could choose a route of listening to other people and practicing what they are saying. That you'll have to do yourself, right? What takes you to where you want to be? What are you actually doing in your day to day, in your 24 hours day? How much amount are you spending where? And just reiterating that, just listening to people. So if you're here, say, and I'm sharing things from my own life, unless you make some changes in your own life, unless you inculcate practices in your own life, nothing would change. Things would feel they are changing, but they would not change. So what practical steps am I taking to get the change in my life incorporated in my life? And these things you'll have to, I mean, there are so many videos you shared, you listen to Alok, there are so many practices. Whatever you like, you can choose.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, Ritu, did you want to say something? You had been unmuting a few times. I don't know if it's happening or you are doing it.
No, I think it's happening by mistake.
Okay. Any comments from you? Anything?
Yeah, one thing I wanted to share here, like we're talking about watching our thoughts and being more aware during the day if we are wandering off somewhere. So the problem sometimes which I face is when I wake up in the morning, I wake up only with a lot of thoughts. So that's very irritating because when one wakes up, one expects one to be fresh and feeling energetic. But sometimes I think while I'm sleeping, I get tired because maybe there are some dreams because of which I'm going on thinking. So my mind is not resting even when I'm thinking. So during the day, one can consciously watch oneself after some time and see that, okay, I'm getting too lost in thoughts. Let me come back. But while one is sleeping, I don't know how one can try to not be so engrossed in thoughts. Is it making any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just looking, there was a passage in the Sunlit Path I could now that was addressing that basically Ritu, there is a way to do things, right? And mother says that how these things have to be taught. We have to learn them. Like there's a way for sleeping so that you don't wake up with thought. It's like you kind of think that whoever you believe in, say Krishna, that I am sleeping in Krishna's lap or I'm sleeping in mother's lap. You have to sleep just before, usually when we sleep, we are already so tired that we just put our head and we are gone. So that is unconscious sleeping. But sleeping with some, a little bit of chanting, handing yourself to the mother or Krishna and saying that, now I'm sleeping, may my mind rest, doing it as an offering again. I'm sleeping so that the body can be rested, so that, tomorrow again, I can do what you want me to do. So these things, these modifications we have to make in ourselves, right? And once you get up, if you're having too many thoughts, do Yog Nidra. Do some 5 minutes of watching the thoughts and giving them, putting them in the fire. That fire of aspiration meditation that you like so much. So you can do that the first 2 minutes of waking up. You can hand over that. So things can be done to change these.
Yeah, okay. I'll try.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk more about it
Mhm.
for
Yeah, I
sure.
had one practical way, like the way I sleep, right? One would be like listening to a mother's music or melodious divine songs or music. So that would really help me like have a peaceful sleep. Another way is mother's recommendation of conscious sleep, where we think of each of part of the body and try imagine as though we are relaxing them. So the first one, the melodious music, right? I tried it, really helps me.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'll try. But I fall to sleep very easily. That is not a problem. But when I wake up, that's the
Yeah,
problem. So,
no, it's not about sleeping easily. Usually we are at the point of exhaustion that we sleep, right?
yeah.
And we just sleep, we just go flat. So, but before sleeping, there's a process to calm yourself down. They say not to look at screens at least an hour, the light should be dim. And before sleeping, offering oneself and imagining that you're sleeping in, surrender. You're sleeping, again, I'm just repeating, say, in mother's lap. So it's not about, it's like, I would say that, it's like I go out, when I'm going out, it's really good. But when I come out, I'm always wet and dirty and stuff, right? So then while going out, you'll have to prepare, that you carry a rain, say an umbrella, or you're wearing a rain suit, so that when you come back, you are dry.
Yeah.
So
So
it's
like
the
the
going in that
Mhm.
needs to be worked on for the coming out.
Yeah. So like what you said earlier, hosh mein behoshi ki pyari.
Yeah, exactly. That was a line from Acharya Prashant,
What is
basically.
that? What is that, Taru? Can you please repeat?
Yasham, it's again simple Hindi that बेहोशी की तैयारी होश में करनी पड़ती है ना, because once you are behosh, you can't do anything about it.
Yeah. वन लाइनर ही है, कोई दूसरा लाइन नहीं है.
नहीं नहीं, एक ही है, कभी एक भी बहुत होती है.
Well,
Yeah. So just that simple, that now when I'm in my senses, when I'm at peace, when I'm right now with myself, I can prepare for the time when I'm not with myself, so that I can learn to be with myself more. Yeah. So we are very close to nine. A little bit of, I think, that video is left. We can just finish it. I don't even remember what part is left before we end.
Identify with their thinking and our feelings, our emotions, which are very conceptual mind, and how we are not our conceptual mind. Most people identify with their thinking and our feelings, our emotions, which are very interconnected with our thinking. And so, what are we thinking? We are thinking in the past. We are remembering things. We are, oh, I remember when I was a child. I remember when I did this. I remember when I did that. We're thinking up in the past, comparing things, regretting and rejoicing. Or we're planning for the future. What will I do next? What's happening, the rest of my life when I get old? What's happening next week? What's happening tomorrow? What's happening, next minute? But all that is just thought. It doesn't exist. The past is gone. The future hasn't come. That's all just thinking, 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 thinking. The only time we have, as everybody knows, but we don't believe it, it's right now. But even now is not now, because the moment I say now, it's gone. But to be aware, not caught up in the thoughts. The thoughts are like the clouds, but we have to be conscious of the space around those clouds. We have to be aware of the sky. This is why, genuinely why people should be meditating, is to become aware of the space instead of the sky, all those clouds. All that thinking. There's nothing wrong with thinking. I mean, thinking is a great skill. But if we cannot stop thinking, then we're in trouble. We should use the tool when we need it, but it shouldn't be on the whole time. Television can sometimes be very interesting, but if we can't turn the set off, and it's blaring endlessly, and you know the kind of stuff it shows on television, well, it's nothing compared with the stuff it shows in your mind. And all the reruns. So we have to be, this is where we live. We live in our mind, and so it's very important that we become the masters of our mind rather than the slaves of our mind. So in Buddhism, basically, you know, it's all schools of Buddhism are dealing with how to recognize the negative emotions in our lives, especially our greed, hatred, and delusion, and how to either uproot or transform these negative emotions which dominate so much of our lives, so that we become the masters of our destiny instead of the slaves of our destiny. This is why they're right in the middle there. Because until we really look, we don't recognize how much these little animals dominate our emotions and our thinking. They are ego. They are the sense of I and me and mine, which is our fundamental delusion. We identify with all the wrong things. We identify with our conceptual thinking, our memories, our ideas, our opinions, our beliefs. Who are you? You will say your name. You will say where you came from. You know, we identify with our race, with our religion, with our culture, with our whatever. All these things which are so impermanent and are not our essential nature at all. I mean, yes, they're very useful in a functional way, but they are not our true nature. And as long as we are dominated by all our negative instincts, we suffer. We suffer and we cause suffering to everybody else. I mean, why is the planet being wrecked? It's because it's controlled by people with uncontrolled minds. I mean, that's the fact of the matter. It's dominated by people who themselves are dominated by greed, anger, and total delusion. And so then they project that out and destroy the very planet they live on. And we're all, you know, agreeing to that by our lifestyles. So therefore, these little animals in the middle are the essence of the whole problem. This is what I'm trying to say. Don't ignore those little animals. They are where all this other stuff comes from.
So that was The Wheels of Samsara by Jetsunmala, Tenzin Palmo. So just recapping a few things that I got, like in addition to so much else, was that first I have to start noticing things, and the noticing starts moment to moment. There are so many moments I miss out, but the moments that I can see, I learn that what's happening, why am I reacting that way, why am I feeling that way, why am I thinking what I am thinking. You know, somebody is drinking coffee, I feel like having coffee, I might not even need coffee, and then that coffee does bad to me. Where is that thought coming from? It sounds exhaustive, but once you start getting into it, it's very natural like everything else. So unless I notice how these movements are happening, I won't be able to accept or reject them. So noticing would be the first. And when I see something, I have a choice not to follow. If I'm getting an emotion, I can choose that, no, I don't want to go there. You can choose, you can, although it might sound difficult, but I can choose not to follow the dictates of my feeling and mind. I have that power. You know, just what's, like she said, what's going on here? So unless we know the whole big picture, which we can very easily know if we are fully present, then it gets really easy to pick and choose, let go, step back. It might sound again exhaustive, and it's not. And one thing that was really important is we are not our mind, is one thing that I get. You know how the mechanical nature, so, you know, we were sharing for those of us who joined late that in the Wheel of Samsara, they talk about these three animals, the cock, the snake, and the pig. The pig is ignorance, delusion. The cock is attachment. That how, I just grasp, I want to attach, I desire. And the snake is anger, hatred, repulsion. So these are the things, anything I see, I react in either of the three things. And I can stop. If I can see how it's working, if I can see the workings of these three, that gives me more power to have more control, mastering over my mind, over myself. So this knowledge of the hub can give me that. Knowing that I am, I'm not the body, but I have a body. I am not my mind, but I have a mind. And I should know when to switch it off, where to direct it, which channel to watch, which channel to say no to. So it'll be after 9. I apologize. Thank you so much for joining in. If there are any comments, if you want to leave, please leave. But if there are any questions or comments, I'll be happy to take them before we end the session. And yeah, thank you so much for joining in and staying till the end. I really appreciate it because when we do things together, somehow personally for me, I just get it more. It makes more sense to me. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Iris.
Yeah, thanks, Taru. Thanks to all the other people.
Yeah, thank you, Sham, and thank you for sharing everything you did. You kept the session going, and thank you to Cyrus for saying he'll join so that we could have this session.
Sure,
Yeah.
that's fine. I think a lot of people joined. In fact, there were quite a few at one point.
Yeah.